It doesn't crash, it doesn't roar. It just rises. Since 1880, the world's oceans have risen 9 inches. That sounds manageable. It isn't. In 1993, seas were rising at 2.1 millimeters per year. By 2024, that rate had doubled. And in 2024, the hottest year in recorded human history, seas rose faster than any scientist predicted. The ocean is not slowing down, it is accelerating. Every single year, the water climbs a little higher than the year before. And every single year, the rate at which it climbs gets faster. This is not a straight line, it is a curve, and the curve is bending upward. 2 forces are lifting the world's oceans. First, ice. Every glacier that melts, every ice sheet that fractures and falls into the sea, that water has to go somewhere, and it goes everywhere. Greenland alone has been losing ice at an accelerating pace for decades. Antarctica, the largest ice sheet on Earth, is following the same path, and thousands of mountain glaciers across the Himalayas, the Alps, the Andes, all draining, year after year, into the sea. Second, heat. The oceans absorb over 90% of the excess heat trapped by greenhouse gases, and when water warms, it expands. The ocean itself is physically growing. In 2024, for the first time, warming seas, not melting ice, drove the majority of that year's rise. The ocean had become a heat engine, pushing water upward from below. This is Tuvalu, 9 islands in the Pacific, average elevation 2 meters above the sea. In 30 years, sea levels around these islands have already risen 15 centimeters. Scientists say much of this country could be submerged by 2050. In 2024, Australia and Tuvalu signed a landmark agreement, granting every Tuvaluan citizen the right to live, work, and study in Australia. It was the world's first formally recognized climate migration deal, a nation quietly preparing for the day there may be no nation left to return to. And Tuvalu is not alone. Jakarta, Bangkok, Chi Minh City. These cities are being hit by rising seas from above and sinking under their own weight from below. A double catastrophe playing out in slow motion. By 2050, just 25 years from now, land currently home to 300 million people will fall below the level of an average annual coastal flood. By 2100, the United Nations warns between 250 and 400 million people will need new homes, in new locations, in new countries. High tide flooding with no storm, triggered simply by the rhythm of the moon and the height of the sea, is already 3 to 9 times more frequent than it was 50 years ago. Coastal roads underwater on a clear afternoon, neighborhoods holding their breath every full moon. If the world fails to act, managing this crisis, seawalls, relocations, rebuilding, could cost $14 trillion every single year. And the cruelest part, the nations that contributed least to this crisis will pay the highest price. Here is what the science also tells us. The rise we cannot stop is already locked in. Decades of emissions already in the atmosphere guarantee that the seas will keep climbing, regardless of what we do today. But the rise after 2050, the difference between 0.5 meter and 2 meters, that is still in our hands. 1.5 meters, that is the gap between the two paths. It represents hundreds of millions of additional people displaced, trillions of dollars in additional losses, islands that survive versus islands that disappear entirely. The Netherlands has spent decades engineering the most sophisticated flood defense system on Earth. Bangladesh is building floating skulls and amphibious homes designed to rise with the water rather than fight it. Communities on every continent are adapting, not because they have given up, but because they refuse to. What we do in the next 2 decades determines which world our children inherit. The ocean does not negotiate. It does not care about elections. or economic cycles or border disputes. It responds only to physics. And the physics are clear. In the last 30 years, the rate of sea level rise has doubled. In the next 30, it will keep accelerating. The question is not whether the seas will rise. The question is, how much will we let them?